Alright, so let's solve more questions on factorization using difference of two squares. So you can see that we have a set of questions that is from A to J. So let's go through. Now, before you start with this, one thing you have to know about factorization is that whenever you want to factorize, you always look for what's common factors. So even with the difference of two squares, before you factorize, always get the common factor out. That's the first thing you must do before you continue with whatever you want to do. So even with this, always look for the common factors first before you continue with the difference of two squares. So let me pick the first one like this. So if I pick the first one, we have x squared minus 16. Now I'll first go through this and see if I'll get a common factor. Here we have x squared minus 16. We don't have a common factor yet, so I can continue with what? My difference of two squares. And now this thing becomes what? X squared minus, we know 16 to be what? A perfect square, which is the same as what? 4 raised to the power 2. And because we are getting this represents a difference of two squares. Because we have two squares, we have minus. So I'll open my two brackets. I'll put the x here, and I'll put the 4 here. I'll put the x here, and I'll put the 4 here. So one bracket plus, the other one what? Minus, and this will be our answer. So you can see that it's very, very simple. But the B part, what do we have? We have 7 minus 63 p squared. So you go through and see if you get any common factor out. Now if you check this thing, you can see that our common factor is what? 7, because 7 can go into the 7 can go into 63 too. So 7 will come out. 7 coming out, leaving what? Here will be what? 1 minus, here will be what? 7 into 63 will be what? Let me check from my calculator. So we have 7 7 49 7 8 56 7 9. So go inside 9 times. Then we have what? P squared. Alright, so we just have to what? Factorize 7 out. Then 7 will go into 7 1 time. 7 will go into 63 9 times. Then we have our p squared there. So now the 7 is out. We can now use difference of two squares for the inside one. So our 7 is still outside. So only for this one, we need to get our square for this and also get one square for this. So we can just easily square 1. Because 1 itself is what? A perfect, so we can square 1. If you square 1, it's still the same as what? 1. And change the the 9 to what? 3 to the power 2. Then we have our p square. Okay, so we have our 7 still outside. Our 1 square minus, then we merge this. So this will give us what? 3p square. So our 7 is still outside, and you can see that this is what? Difference of two squares. So we can now open our two brackets. Our first element is 1, then this is what? 3p. The same thing here, 1 3p plus and what? Minus, and this will be our answer. Okay, let me proceed to the C aspect. Now the C, we have, what do we have? We have 25 x squared minus 36. So you ask yourself, do we have a common factor here? Now if you go through this, you can see that we don't have a common factor here. So you can just proceed with your difference of two squares. So our 25 becomes what? 5 raised to the power 2, then x squared, and minus what? This becomes what? 6 to the power 2. We can now merge this side to get 1 square for them. So 5x, or what? Square minus 6 square. Sorry, this one is square. Sorry, square. Okay, so I'll open my two brackets because this is now difference of two squares. So the first element is what? 5x. The second one is what? 6. Repeat the same thing here, 5x or what? 6. minus and what plus. This plus. You can also make it plus and minus, and you still get your answer. All right. So let me proceed to D. Let me proceed to D. So D, we have AR square minus AR square. So here you can we have a capital R square, a the capital we have a capital R square minus a small r square. So you go through and see if you get a common factor. Now you can see that we have a and we have a, so a will come out, so a will be our common factor, leaving what capital R square minus small r square. Okay, so a is still outside. If you check this thing, you can see that this is what difference of two squares, because we have r square, that's the capital R square, minus small r square, so this difference r square. Open your two brackets, so r, that's the capital R, small r, capital R, small r. 1 plus and 1 what minus. You just have to know that capital R is different from small r, so be careful when dealing with things like this. All right. So our next question is E. So the solutions. E, we have 9p square q minus q raised to the power 3. We have something like this. So you go through and see if you get a common factor. If you get some, you just have to factorize that one out first. Okay. So you can see that here we have p here. We don't have p here, so it means we can't choose p. We have 9, nothing here, so we can't choose it. But we have q, and what q raised to the power 3, meaning q can come out. So q is coming out, leaving what here 9, then what p square. So q is out, leaving 9p squared there. Then minus here, one of the q is what out, so we are left with what q raised to the power 2. Okay, so still we have our q outside, and you can see that here we have what 9p square minus q square. We can change the 9 to what 3 raised to the power 2, so it can be 3 raised to the power 2. We have our p square, then 9 what square. And again, we need to merge this, so we'll be getting, still we have our q outside, we'll be getting what 3p everything square minus q square. So this is now what difference of two squares. So q outside, open two bracket, and we have what 3p q, 3p q minus. All right, so our next one will be f. And f, we have 5x squared minus 16. So we go through and see if you get any common factor out. Now if you go through, you can see that we don't have any common factor, so we can proceed with our difference of two squares. And with this one, we can't convert the 5 to power 2. So this 5 we can't convert it to power 2. That we can't break it down to power 2. So what will you do? We just have to introduce square root, then you squares. As I said earlier, whenever you can't convert something to power 2, or you can't break it down to power 2, you need to square root, then you square it. So we can do the same to this. So it can be square root of 5, then you square it, then this one will be x squared, you square it, then minus the 16 becomes what 4 raised to the power 2. Okay, now this becomes root 5x, but I would like to write the x first. It's like you have 2 times 3, it can be 3 times 2, so I like to write x first. So x root 5 everything what square minus 4, then square. So now we have our two squares are minus. I can open my two brackets, so we have x root 5 4, x root 5 4, your plus and what your minus, and this will be our answer. And be careful when they say factorize, it means you just have to leave the answer in brackets. So don't expand and simplify this thing again. If not, you go back to the question. All right, Jim. So we have x minus 1 square minus 4x square. So again, if you check the left hand side, you can see that we have what, the square there already, minus this 4x squared, but it's only the x which is square, so we need to square the 4 to we need to convert the 4 to 2 raised to the power 2, and that will give us, so this one will be x minus 1 power 2 minus this will be what, the 4 becomes 2 raised to the power 2, then x raised to the power 2 is here. So I need to merge this, so we're getting x minus 1 square minus 2x or what square. So this difference of 2 squares my 2 brackets, x minus 1 2x, x minus 1 2x plus and minus. Right. But you can see that when it comes to this, we can also what, simplify those inside. You can see that here we have x, here too we have 2x, that is minus 2x, here too we have x, here we have 2x, so we can simplify and more, but you just have to still maintain the bracket. So the x minus x will give you what, minus x, that is x minus 2x will give you minus x, then minus 1. This one to x plus 2x will give you 3x, then minus 1. So this will be our final answer for this. So whenever you get something like this, try to simplify them inside the bracket. Okay, h, what do we have? We have 2x power 3 minus 18x y square. All right, so again, let's go through and see if we get a common factor here. Now you can see that here we have what, 2, here we have 18. It means 2 can come out of the expression, and also we have x raised to the power 3, we have x here, so x2 can follow. So you know we'll be getting what, 2x will come out, leaving what here, x square, then minus here the 2 will go into this, how many times, 9, so leaving 9, x is gone, so we are left with what, y square. So 2x is still outside, then we convert this side to a difference of 2 squares, so this x square minus this becomes 3 raised to the power 2 y2. So we have our 2x, then this becomes x square minus, when you merge this you get 3y everything square, then 2x, this now difference of 2 squares, so 2 brackets, so we have x 3y x 3y plus or what, minus, and this should be our answer. No need to use this one to multiply again, this should be your answer. All right, then the I part we have something like the I part we have something, let me do this in the next sheet. All right, so the I part we have something like x raised to the power 4, we have x raised to the power 4 minus y2. Now the idea is we need what, the left hand square we need power 2 there, the right hand square too we need power 2 there. So how can we get here to a power 2? We can just re-express this thing as what, x 2 then 2. Now this is coming from the laws of indices. When you have something like this, you can just say, that is if you have something a m and you have n outside, the power will multiply the power, so you get a m n. So this is coming from the laws of indices. So if we are saying this is the same as this, if you have this one too, you can convert it as this. So this is why we are getting something like this. So this will be minus, let me cover this, so this will be minus what, y square, meaning here the x square is also carrying what, square. We have y square, so our first element will be what, x square. and this is the power. So we have two powers here. That's difference of two. So we have powers here. So the first one becomes, I'm open my two bracket, x square, then y, x square, then y minus and what, plus. All right, so the last one will be, so we have J. The last one we have 4m square minus 9 over 49. Okay, so here I don't think we have a common factor here, so we can proceed with our difference of two squares. Okay, so let me change the 4 to 2 raised to the power 2. So 2 raised to the power 2 and raised to the power 2 minus. Here too, though we have fraction, but we can convert the 9 to what? 3 raised to the power 2 on the 49 to what? 7 raised to the power 2. Okay, and again we can merge this to be what? 2m all raised to the power 2, and this one too becomes what? 3 over 7 all raised to the power 2. So this one too is coming from the laws of indices again. That is, if you have a on b is equals to what? We have a on b raised to the power m is equals to am over bm. So if we are saying this one is equals to this, then we can also say that whenever you see this, you can rewrite this. So you can see that from here we can just give a common power to them, that's power 2 to them. And now we have our two squares, so I'll open my two brackets. So we have 2m, we have 3 on 7, 2m, 3 on 7. So one will be plus and one will be what? Minus. So I think we are through with some of the questions. I'll continue with this in our next video, where we'll be solving more questions on this. We'll be simplifying expressions using difference of two squares, and also we'll be calculating other questions using difference of two squares. Okay, so I'll refer you to my next video where we'll continue with this thing and also move on to quadratic factorization. Okay, now you can ask questions in our comment, or you can just send your questions to the comment section. I'll be glad to answer all the questions. Then also you can also get me at get me on Telegram. So on Telegram at Anyemi underscore, we have HNL. So you can get me on Telegram at Anyemi underscore HNL. You can also send your questions there and I'll be glad to answer you. Thank you. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Bye bye.